Now that we've learned what recursive and explicit formulas are, we're going to see if we can convert from one to the other. In my opinion, it's most difficult to write a recursive formula from an explicit one, so we're going to start with that. We are given an explicit formula, a sub n equals 2n minus 4, and we want to write a recursive formula from that. So when you look at this formula, a sub n equals 2n minus 4, it's really tempting to say that our starting value, the first term in our sequence, is -4, because that would be the y-intercept if this was written in slope-intercept form. But remember, the first value, a sub 1, is when n equals 1. So for us to find the first value, we have to substitute into this formula a value of 1 for n. 2 times 1 minus 4. And 2 times 1 minus 4 is -2. So our first value is actually -2. Now let's see if we can figure out what this is going up by every time now that we know our first value. And that we actually can get from the fact that this is in slope-intercept form. Our slope is 2, so it's increasing by 2 every time. But we could also figure this out by plugging in the second and third terms. It's going to be 2 because the slope is 2. But 2 times 2 minus 4, that's going to give us a sub 2. That's 0. And then we need to do one more to establish a pattern here. So let's plug in our third value, a sub 3. A sub 3 is 6 minus 4, which is 2. And you can see it goes -2, 0, 2. It's increasing by 2 every time. So our a sub n is going to be take the previous term and add 2. Is this an acceptable recursive formula? No, because I've forgotten the third part. N is greater than or equal to 2. I have to have all three parts for this to be a valid recursive formula. Now we've got it all, we're good to go. I think going from a recursive formula to an explicit formula is much, much easier because a recursive formula tells you the two things that you need to know for an explicit formula. First of all, this explicit formula that we're going to write is going to be geometric, and we know it's going to be geometric because this piece tells us that a sub n minus 1 is being multiplied by 0.2. So this is geometric, and the common ratio is 0.2. And then it also tells us a sub 1 is 9. So that's really nice that it gives us those two pieces of information. And then all we have to remember is the geometric formula is a sub 1 times the common ratio to the n minus 1 power. And now we just plug in the information we have. So a sub n equals a sub 1, which was 9, times our rate, which was 0.2, to the n minus 1 power. And there's our explicit formula. So writing an explicit formula from a recursive formula is very easy. The recursive formula is so nice to us. It just tells us the two pieces of information that we need to know. Going the other way, from an explicit to a recursive, we have to do just the tiniest little bit of math sometimes to figure out what the first term should be. But then after that, it's also not super difficult.